In the world of WWE, not everyone can hold on to the spotlight forever. Some superstars were once celebrated, drawing thunderous reactions every time they appeared, yet a single release was enough to bring it all crashing down. A few managed to rise again and reclaim their names, but many careers hit a dead end, never recovering the glory they once had. They had the talent, they had the chance, but a single fall sent them off the peak for good. So who were they, and where did their downfall begin? Let's find out right now. Wrestling Sphere, go! 1. Muhammad Hassan. For decades, WWE has leaned heavily on the trope of the foreign villain, often portraying characters who openly despised America. Yet among all those who ever played the anti-American role, none sparked more heated controversy than Muhammad Hassan. From the moment he debuted on Raw in 2004, Hassan immediately drew backlash for his shocking promos and confrontational persona. Still, nothing compared to the firestorm that erupted after a fateful episode on July 7, 2005. On that night's SmackDown, following Divery's loss to The Undertaker, Hassan dropped to his knees as if in prayer. Suddenly, 5 masked men stormed the ring, armed with steel pipes and piano wire. Together, they unleashed a brutal assault on The Undertaker, even choking him unconscious in a disturbing scene. At first glance, it seemed like just another violent WWE storyline. But outrage exploded due to a chilling coincidence. The segment aired the very same day as the London terrorist bombings, which claimed 52 lives and injured nearly 800 people. In reality, the footage had been taped on July 4th. However, its broadcast so soon after a real-world tragedy left viewers horrified, with many accusing WWE of airing an angle that felt disturbingly similar to the day's events. The backlash was immediate. UPN, the network airing SmackDown, demanded that WWE eliminate the Hassan character entirely. Just weeks later, at the Great American Bash, Hassan faced The Undertaker in a high-stakes match. The Deadman finished him with a devastating last ride through the stage, a moment that symbolized Hassan's permanent removal from WWE television. Behind the scenes, the company briefly considered repackaging him at their developmental system, but every attempt failed. On September 21, 2005, WWE officially released Hassan from his contract. Ironically, rumors had circulated that he was on the verge of a massive push, with some even speculating he might capture the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam by defeating Batista. All of those plans evaporated because of one ill-timed segment. The fallout was devastating. Still in his 20s, Hassan abruptly retired from wrestling. Years later, he admitted in interviews that the experience sent him into a deep depression that lasted nearly a decade. It wasn't until age 38, when he wrestled a few small matches, that he felt able to move forward. "I didn't come back to find my way to WWE," he confessed. "I just wanted to see if I could still do it. And I did. It felt amazing. But I knew it was time to walk away for good. That comeback was my final test, my way of saying goodbye." Looking back, Hassan calls it the greatest loss of his life. 4 years, he avoided the wrestling world entirely. No interviews, no appearances, no involvement at all. Only recently has he spoken openly about that chapter, admitting he now feels at peace with it. He says he remains proud of the character he portrayed, but the heavy weight it once carried is finally gone. Today, Hassan has left the spotlight behind, dedicating himself to a career in teaching. Though his WWE run ended abruptly and painfully, the name Muhammad Hassan lives on as one of the clearest examples of how dangerous it can be to build a persona around the anti-American archetype. One mistimed storyline was enough to erase what could have been a legendary career. 2. Perry Saturn. When fans think of Perry Saturn, they often recall his glory days in ECW and especially WCW, where he proved himself to be one of the most skilled performers in the ring. In WCW, Saturn shined through his singles matches, earning praise for his hard-hitting style and incredible resilience. But everything changed when he, along with Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Dean Malenko, made the bold decision to leave WCW for WWE, forming the Radicals, one of the most talked-about jumps in wrestling at the time. At first, the group made a strong impact, immediately feuding with D-Generation X and Cactus Jack. However, compared to Benoit and Guerrero, who quickly rose to main event status, Saturn gradually faded into the background. Though he did capture the European Championship and Hardcore Championship, those reigns weren't enough to establish him as a top star. His downfall came in 2001, sparked by a single moment of poor judgment. During a match against Mike Bell, an enhancement talent, Bell botched an arm drag, throwing off the timing. Instead of handling the mistake professionally, Saturn lost his temper. He snapped and attacked Bell for Real in the middle of the match. Not only did he beat him down brutally, but he also tossed Bell outside the ring, causing his head to slam hard onto the floor. The outburst was seen as crossing the line, since Bell's error was minor and didn't justify such violence. WWE management decided to punish him creatively rather than fire him outright. They saddled him with a bizarre gimmick, an attachment to a mop, which he affectionately called Moppy. Surprisingly, fans found the absurdity entertaining, but the gimmick permanently cast Saturn as a lower-card comedy act, stripping away any credibility he once had as a serious wrestler. After a short feud with Raven, his career spiraled downward. A knee ligament injury only made things worse, and by November 2002, WWE officially released him. After leaving WWE, Saturn had brief stints in TNA, on the independent circuit, and even in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Still, he never regained the prominence he once enjoyed in WCW. For many fans, his name became more associated with the mop than with his actual in-ring accomplishments. Worse yet, his personal life took a tragic turn. In April 2004, Saturn was caught in a shooting incident while intervening to protect a woman being assaulted outside a strip club. He suffered serious injuries, and that moment marked the beginning of a dark chapter. Once a performer on wrestling's biggest stages, Saturn descended into methamphetamine addiction and ended up homeless for over 2 years. Small independent shows could not save him from rock bottom, and the image of Perry Saturn as a once promising star faded into memory. His story serves as a bitter reminder of wrestling's fragility. One lapse in control can derail a career, and sometimes, the tragedies outside the ring destroy a star's life faster than anything that happens under the bright lights. 3. Enzo Amore. In WWE history, Enzo Amore is remembered as one of the most charismatic talkers on the microphone. His in-ring ability was never considered top tier, but every time he grabbed the mic, Enzo had the crowd hanging on every word. Teaming with Big Cass, the duo quickly rose to become one of the most popular tag teams of their era. Their humor, brash attitude, and catchphrases that fans loved to chant made them instant crowd favorites. However, that spotlight didn't last long. In 2018, while Enzo was in the middle of a high-profile run, he was suddenly released following allegations of sexual assault. The accusations were later proven unfounded, but at the time WWE wasted no time in cutting ties. The incident abruptly ended his rise within the company and severely damaged his reputation. After leaving WWE, Enzo tried to carve out a new path. He pursued a career in music as a rapper and made a few short appearances on 205 Live as well as in independent promotions. Still, none of these ventures helped him regain the popularity he once enjoyed. Without WWE's platform, his name slowly faded, often resurfacing only in connection with controversies or mentions of his former partner, Big Cass. The truth is, Enzo had a natural gift for entertainment and an undeniable ability to capture attention, but his career showed that mic skills alone aren't enough to secure long-term success in wrestling. That one firing shattered his momentum, leaving his career virtually stalled to this day. While his story leaves many fans disappointed, it also highlights the harsh reality of WWE. A single incident outside the ring, even one never substantiated, can be enough to end the run of a rising star. For Enzo Amore, it was the turning point from which he never recovered. 4. Rikishi. In 2000, WWE planned to elevate Rikishi into one of its top villains. The storyline was dramatic. Rikishi confessed that he was the one who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin at Survivor Series 1999, shocking the audience and setting the stage for a major heel turn. But instead of generating the expected outrage, fans simply couldn't accept Rikishi as a cold-blooded antagonist. His image as the fun-loving entertainer who made crowds laugh with his "too cool" dance was too deeply ingrained to suddenly transform into a ruthless villain. The lack of believability caused the entire plan to collapse almost immediately. Adding to the problem, Rikishi lacked the qualities needed to convincingly portray a top heel. He didn't have the charisma or the edge required to make fans believe he was truly heartless. That miscalculation, combined with an injury soon after, forced WWE to abandon the storyline altogether. From then on, Rikishi continued to appear regularly, but only in mid-card matches, mostly in light-hearted roles rather than being featured in major storylines. By 2004, WWE officially parted ways with him, ending a memorable but ultimately unfulfilled run. Not ready to leave wrestling behind, Rikishi tried his hand in TNA in 2007. However, the venture ended abruptly, lasting less than a month due to disputes over pay. Afterward, he mostly wrestled at smaller independent shows, but he was never able to shake off the mid-card label that WWE had unintentionally cemented for him. To his credit, Rikishi was always beloved for his humor and entertaining style. His comical dance routines and friendly personality gave him a distinct charm that fans appreciated. Yet that same image also became a limitation. It confined him to a role that, while fun, prevented him from breaking through as a true main event star. WWE once placed enormous trust in him by giving him a golden opportunity to rise to the top, but his failed heel turn caused everything to unravel. In the end, Rikishi is remembered more for entertainment value than for championship glory. He stands as a clear example that not every wrestler can successfully reinvent themselves, especially when the character they embody is so drastically different from the role the company wants them to play. 5. Ahmed Johnson. Ahmed Johnson was once a name that caught WWE's attention during a short but explosive period. He stood out not only because of his powerful physique and intense in-ring style, but also for making history as the first African-American wrestler to win the Intercontinental Championship. That accomplishment turned Johnson into a symbol of breakthrough success and positioned him as one of the brightest stars of his era. His involvement in the Nation of Domination further highlighted his influence, solidifying his importance in WWE's landscape of the late 90s. However, Johnson's path toward becoming a main event player was far from smooth. Critics frequently labeled his wrestling style as reckless and sloppy, a reputation that left fans both excited and uneasy whenever he performed. In reality, Johnson wasn't a poor wrestler. He was far more capable than infamous names like Giant Gonzalez or the Great Khali. His biggest obstacle was his body's fragility. Injuries struck him repeatedly. Each time WWE tried to push him into a major storyline, those setbacks derailed the company's plans. Behind the scenes, his reputation didn't help either. Accounts from colleagues painted him as difficult to work with, sometimes acting as though he was above others. That attitude chipped away at WWE management's confidence in elevating him to top star status. Still, Johnson managed to stay visible until 1998, when he suddenly left the company. Later, he revealed that his departure wasn't only about wrestling but also tied to a personal tragedy. His sister was battling terminal cancer. Overwhelmed by emotional pressure, Johnson chose to walk away rather than endure further stress. A year later, he attempted to restart his career in WCW under the name Big T. Unfortunately, instead of a strong comeback, the move proved disastrous. He joined Stevie Ray to form Harlem Heat 2000 and immediately entered a feud with Booker T. The storyline revolved around something trivial, the right to use the letter T in their names. Fans found it ridiculous, and the angle failed to generate real interest. Even though Johnson technically won the feud, audiences had already tuned out. His matches in WCW lacked excitement, his stamina declined, and his weight issues further dragged down his performance. By mid-2000, WCW released him. From that point on, Johnson never recaptured the glory he once had in the mid-90s. His history of backstage conflicts also closed the door on any possible returns for WWE reunions or anniversary shows. A career that once promised greatness instead ended abruptly, leaving behind a legacy of unfulfilled potential and regret. 6. Chyna. In WWE history, few female wrestlers have left as powerful an impact as Chyna. She burst onto the scene in the late 1990s as a one-of-a-kind phenomenon, earning the nickname the Ninth Wonder of the World. More than just a member of D-Generation X, Chyna proved she could break boundaries few believed possible for women in wrestling. Her victory in capturing the Intercontinental Championship, a title traditionally reserved for men, cemented her as a true trailblazer, inspiring generations to come. With her imposing physique, fierce personality, and bold style, Chyna was not only adored by fans but also respected by many of her peers. To the WWE audience, she embodied the idea that women could stand shoulder to shoulder with men in the ring. Yet, that spotlight did not last forever. In 2001, after leaving WWE, her career began a downward spiral that she could never recover from. She tried her luck in New Japan Pro Wrestling and made brief appearances in TNA, but neither stint left much of an impression. The performances lacked the spark of her WWE days, and slowly, her name faded from the wrestling spotlight. Without a place in the industry, she turned to other ventures, many of which unfortunately dragged her image into controversy. Personal struggles began to dominate her life. Chyna battled substance abuse, became involved in adult films, and was surrounded by scandals that overshadowed her legacy. Once a beloved icon, she increasingly became the subject of tabloid stories rather than wrestling accolades. While she still had loyal fans who supported her, it was clear she would never regain the glory she had during her WWE run. Tragedy struck again in 2016, when Chyna passed away at the age of 46 from an overdose, ending a life marked by both triumph and heartbreak. Her death left fans mourning and served as a sobering reminder of the darker side of stardom. Chyna will forever be remembered as one of wrestling's most unique pioneers, a woman who redefined what was possible for female performers, but also as proof that fame alone cannot save a life from its struggles. 7. Brad Maddox. Among the many names to have stepped into a WWE ring, Brad Maddox remains one of the most unfortunate cases, a clear example of the phrase, "what could have been." When he debuted on the main roster in 2012, he immediately drew attention thanks to his surprising alliance with CM Punk. It was a huge break, as not everyone gets the chance to stand alongside a top superstar of that era. Maddox was never groomed to be the face of the company like John Cena or Roman Reigns, but he had the perfect traits for a sly villain, someone who could manipulate authority and stir chaos on Raw. But his spotlight faded far quicker than expected. After a short stint as Raw general manager, he was removed from the role in 2015. From being a regular face on weekly television, Maddox was quickly relegated to dark matches and untelevised appearances. Within just a few months, a once promising career had spiraled downward. In an effort to salvage his standing, Maddox experimented with different characters, hoping to find the right fit. Unfortunately, one mistake ruined everything. During a small match, he let slip the phrase, "cocky pricks," when addressing the audience, a term strictly banned in WWE. At a time when the company was maintaining a PG, family-friendly image, the comment was considered unacceptable. Vince McMahon was reportedly furious, and instead of issuing a fine or suspension, WWE abruptly terminated Maddox's contract. Shaken by the release, Maddox tried to stay active on the independent circuit for a while, but the passion was no longer the same. By 2021, he admitted he wanted to shift his focus toward acting and virtually disappeared from the wrestling spotlight. He deleted all of his social media accounts, leaving fans curious and skeptical. Rumors circulated that he had uploaded some strange videos before vanishing, though no one truly knows what happened. Brad Maddox had once been viewed as a promising heel, but a single lapse cost him everything. His story is a stark reminder that in WWE, talent alone doesn't guarantee success. Sometimes it's all about playing the role at the right time, in the right way. 8. Chris Masters. Chris Masters was once seen as the perfect example of the type Vince McMahon admired, a towering powerhouse with a sculpted physique who looked imposing every time he stepped into the ring. From his very first appearance, WWE capitalized on his massive frame to draw attention. That's when the Master Lock Challenge was introduced, a unique concept that quickly made Masters stand out. Still, he was largely viewed like many other strength-based wrestlers, relying more on size than pure wrestling skill. His biggest highlight in the early days came when he faced Shawn Michaels, who had just finished his high-profile feud with Hulk Hogan. While their match wasn't a classic, it allowed Masters to prove his growth as a performer, enough to keep him in the upper mid-card. Between 2005 and 2006, he even competed several times for the WWE Championship, and it seemed like reaching the top was only a matter of time. But trouble soon followed. A violation of WWE's wellness policy caused Vince McMahon to lose confidence in him. Once expectations were gone, Masters quickly slipped down the card. A second offense nearly ended any chance of recovery. WWE didn't even wait for a suspension to play out, they simply released him. By that point, his role had already diminished, with his only real spotlight being in the Intercontinental Championship scene. In 2009, Masters returned to WWE, reviving the Masterpiece Challenge, and unexpectedly gaining fan support after entertaining the crowd with his peck dance to the tune of Crazy Train. Despite being pushed as a babyface this time, he could never regain the momentum he once had. In 2011, After yet another wellness policy violation, Masters officially left the company again. Outside WWE, he continued wrestling in promotions like TNA and NWA, refusing to abandon his dream. Masters has openly said he doesn't expect to be a full-time WWE performer anymore, but he'd love to make a surprise return at a Royal Rumble, both as a way to redeem himself and to show how much he has matured. While that opportunity has yet to come, Chris Masters has kept his passion for wrestling alive, proving that he has never truly let go of the dream. 9. Marty Jannetty. When fans think of Marty Jannetty, the first memory that comes to mind is the legendary breakup of the Rockers with Shawn Michaels. That unforgettable moment saw Michaels superkick Jannetty and send him crashing through the barbershop window, a scene etched into WWE history. It launched Michaels on the path to becoming one of the greatest superstars of all time. Ironically, it was also the turning point that sent Jannetty's career into decline. After the Rockers split, Jannetty still received chances. He captured the Intercontinental Championship and had a handful of memorable matches, but he could never escape Michaels' shadow. Starting from the same place, Michaels skyrocketed to main event status, while Jannetty remained stuck in the mid-card, forever branded as the partner left behind. One of Jannetty's biggest problems was inconsistency. He was often caught up in issues outside the ring, from backstage conflicts to personal troubles. These distractions led WWE to lose faith in him over time. Whenever he was given a chance to return, he would soon squander it for reasons unrelated to his in-ring ability. In later years, Jannetty continued to appear sporadically at special events, sometimes reuniting with Michaels for nostalgic moments. Yet those cameos were only reminders of the glory days of the Rockers, not real opportunities to restart his career. The tragedy of Jannetty's story is that he had the potential and talent to succeed, but lacked the focus and discipline to sustain it. In the end, while Shawn Michaels became a celebrated legend, Marty Jannetty remained the textbook example of the partner left behind. His career, once full of promise, never truly recovered after leaving WWE. 10. Ryback. Ryback was introduced to fans as a powerful new force, carrying the image of a destructive machine, and often compared to the legendary Goldberg. With his massive frame, extraordinary strength, and the catchphrase, "Feed me more," he quickly became a name to watch in WWE. In his early run, Ryback dominated opponents week after week, and at one point was placed in major matches, even competing for championships. Many believed he had the potential to become one of the company's top stars. However, the spotlight didn't last. After a few years, Ryback began to lose momentum. Fans grew tired of his repetitive in-ring style, which lacked variety, while WWE gradually lost faith in his ability to carry the main event scene. Key title opportunities passed by without leaving a lasting impression, and his presence on the roster started to fade. As tensions between him and the company escalated, especially over issues like pay disputes and the direction of his career, a split became inevitable. After leaving WWE, Ryback aimed to prove himself elsewhere, but the journey was far from smooth. He worked on the independent wrestling circuit, launched a podcast, and even built a supplement business. Yet none of these ventures restored the star power he once enjoyed. Occasional appearances in smaller promotions failed to generate real buzz, and the constant comparisons to Goldberg turned into more of a burden than a benefit. Today, when fans mention Ryback, most recall the brief period when WWE pushed him as a dominant force rather than any accomplishments afterward. His story stands as a clear example that leaving WWE can sometimes mean losing the spotlight, and not everyone finds a way to reclaim the glory they once had. 11. Vladimir Kozlov. Vladimir Kozlov is a prime example of the monster archetype that Vince McMahon often tried to fast-track into superstardom. With his imposing physique, stoic demeanor, and a style that blended martial arts with raw power, Kozlov was expected to be a key player for the next generation. He officially debuted on April 4, 2008, and within just a few months, he was thrust into a high-profile spot, the main event of Survivor Series alongside Triple H and Jeff Hardy. Yet what should have been his golden opportunity quickly became the turning point that stalled his momentum. In that match, WWE scripted a controversial angle where Jeff Hardy was attacked before the show, leaving Triple H to face Kozlov in the main event. It was Kozlov's chance to prove himself, but instead, the bout disappointed the audience. His repetitive offense, limited moveset, and lack of emotional connection with the crowd turned the match into one of the most heavily criticized performances of that era. Although Kozlov later delivered better outings against Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, the damage to his reputation had already been done. WWE soon scaled back his push, sending him to the ECW brand during the 2009 draft. Still, he managed to carve out some memorable moments when paired with Santino Marella. The unlikely duo brought a surprising comedic edge, from entertaining tag matches to the hilarious Tea Party skits with Sheamus that had fans laughing. That bright period, however, didn't last. By 2011, WWE officially released Kozlov. Unlike many former stars who continued on the independent circuit, he almost completely stepped away from professional wrestling. He later found a new direction as a commentator for Impact Wrestling in 2021, while also transitioning into acting. Kozlov appeared in major films such as John Wick, Chapter 2, The Fate of the Furious, and Wolf Warriors 2, proving himself in an entirely different arena. Looking back, Kozlov never left a lasting mark inside the wrestling world, but he showcased his versatility by reinventing himself in Hollywood. His wrestling career may have ended quietly, yet his new path allowed the name Vladimir Kozlov to find recognition outside WWE. 12. Velveteen Dream. Velveteen Dream was once considered one of WWE's most promising young stars. When Patrick Clark adopted a persona inspired by Prince, he immediately stood out as a unique figure. His eccentric style, combined with his ability to tell stories through in-ring performance, made him completely different from the rest of the roster at the time. Fans believed Dream had the potential to reach the main stage of WrestleMania, a spot not every talent from NXT could realistically achieve. However, all those expectations began to crumble in 2020. Dream was accused of sending explicit images to underage individuals through social media. Although Clark repeatedly denied the allegations and Triple H stated that WWE's internal investigation found no evidence, unanswered questions lingered. One accuser even claimed WWE never contacted him to verify his story, fueling further public suspicion. From that point forward, Dream's image took a severe hit. His final matches in NXT were met with hostility, as crowds consistently voiced their disapproval. Under heavy public pressure, Triple H pulled the former North American champion from television, and by May 2021, WWE officially released him. While many assumed the allegations were the primary reason, reports suggested that his backstage behavior and difficult attitude played a larger role in the company's decision. After leaving WWE, Clark's career only sank deeper. No major promotion was willing to take the risk of signing him, while his personal life spiraled with arrests tied to violence and drug-related issues. Even without convictions, Dream was viewed as a liability rather than an asset. At one point, rumors circulated that Triple H might consider bringing him back after taking creative control, but reliable sources quickly dismissed that possibility, labeling Dream a public relations nightmare. Although Clark has resurfaced on the independent scene with a few controversial appearances, it seems unlikely he will ever recapture the spotlight he once enjoyed in NXT. In professional wrestling, nothing is ever truly impossible, but the path for Velveteen Dream to become a WWE star again appears firmly closed. 13. Virgil. Virgil was one of the familiar faces to fans during WWF's golden era in the early 1990s. He stepped into the spotlight as the personal bodyguard of the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The contrast between DiBiase's powerful, lavish persona and Virgil's quiet, stoic presence created a strong impact. At that time, even while standing silently beside his wealthy boss, Virgil made an impression with his commanding aura and gradually became an essential part of DiBiase's storylines. The peak of Virgil's career came when he turned on DiBiase, breaking free from the role of loyal enforcer to become his direct rival. That feud propelled Virgil out of the shadows and into the spotlight, earning thunderous support from the crowd. Fans erupted with cheers when he finally defeated DiBiase and captured the $1 Million Championship, a defining, triumphant moment that remains the highlight of his wrestling career. However, that glory was short-lived. Once he pursued a solo path, Virgil struggled to maintain momentum. His in-ring style lacked freshness, while WWF continued producing new, more dynamic stars. Audience interest in him declined rapidly, and his presence on television shows faded. By the time he departed WWE, his career had already lost much of its shine. Virgil later tried to revive his career in WCW, rebranded as Vincent, but he never regained traction. He appeared sporadically, often blending into large group segments rather than standing out. His role was seen as little more than background filler, far from the position of a true star. Eventually, he drifted out of the spotlight altogether, leaving fans with only memories of his brief golden era. Life after wrestling wasn't easy for Virgil. Instead of being remembered as a successful performer, he became known more for offbeat stories outside the ring, selling autograph photos at conventions, showing up at small events, and becoming the subject of viral, often mocking, online anecdotes. His image turned into a punchline more than a source of admiration. While he once enjoyed a shining moment alongside Ted DiBiase, Virgil's career stands as a clear reminder that not everyone who leaves WWE is able to recapture their lost glory. 14. Abraham Washington. Abraham Washington was once a minor figure in WWE, but unfortunately, he is remembered far more for a critical mistake on live television than for any career achievements. From the start, Washington was mostly used as a manager or the host of a short-lived talk show segment on ECW, neither of which made a lasting impact. Later, he was paired with Epico and Primo as their manager before abruptly switching sides to lead Darren Young and Titus O'Neil in the Primetime Players. It seemed like his chance to establish himself, but his career took a nosedive after one ill-timed comment. During a live broadcast, Washington made a controversial joke, comparing Titus O'Neil to Kobe Bryant in reference to a notorious incident in Colorado. Though his intention was to be humorous, the remark touched on a sensitive scandal from the past. WWE management was immediately outraged. In less than a day, Vince McMahon made the decisive call to fire Abraham Washington. Unwilling to leave quietly, Washington publicly criticized WWE soon after, even suggesting that his release was tied to Linda McMahon's Senate campaign. Those statements only damaged his image further, and from that point forward, he virtually disappeared from the spotlight. Many felt WWE may have overreacted, but the company stood firm and showed no intention of ever bringing him back. It wasn't until 2016 that Washington resurfaced in the wrestling world, though his appearances were sporadic and failed to leave much of an impression. In an interview, he later admitted his mistake, expressed regret over the comment, and said he had learned to accept the firing as a new beginning. Still, the road back to prominence had long closed, making Abraham Washington a textbook example of how one poorly chosen remark at the wrong time can abruptly end a WWE career. 15. Maven. Maven was once seen as WWE's diamond in the rough, after emerging from the reality show Tough Enough. Winning the very first season made fans believe he was destined to become one of the company's future stars. His career highlight came at the 2002 Royal Rumble, when he shockingly eliminated The Undertaker, a jaw-dropping moment that instantly etched his name into the memory of wrestling fans. But that promising start didn't last. WWE never seemed to have a clear plan for Maven, often placing him in storylines that lacked direction or importance. Coupled with frequent injuries and an undefined in-ring style, he slowly faded from the spotlight. The man who once brought an arena to its feet by eliminating The Undertaker quickly became just another mid-card name overshadowed by rising talent. By 2005, WWE officially released Maven. For many, the decision wasn't a surprise, as his career had already been in steady decline. From that point on, the spotlight all but disappeared. He tried finding opportunities in smaller promotions, but his appearances were brief and never reignited fan interest. What truly surprised people, however, was Maven's life after WWE. No longer viewed as a rising star, he transitioned into everyday jobs, working as a retail store manager, appearing on television auction shows, and even spending time as a security guard. The image of a Tough Enough winner was now tied to ordinary life rather than main event matches. In recent years, Maven has resurfaced through his personal YouTube channel, where he shares memories of his WWE days and insights into his current life. While his channel has gained some attention, it's more of a personal project than a genuine wrestling comeback. For Maven, eliminating The Undertaker remains the peak of his career, a reminder that sometimes the spotlight shines too early, only to fade just as quickly without the right guidance. These were the wrestlers who once had the chance to shine but saw their careers end in disappointment after leaving WWE. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep following Wrestling Sphere.